Okay, so have you ever, like, completely misread a room? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you thought you were being funny, but ended up making things super awkward?
Oh, yeah, totally. I think we've all been there at some point. It's that moment where you realize, oh, maybe that joke didn't land the way I intended.
Exactly. And today we're diving deep into one of those situations. Someone wrote in about a bit of a social pickle they found themselves in involving a joke,
Hmm.
a French phrase, and, well, let's just say some jokes get lost in translation literally. So the question is, was this a harmless joke gone wrong or a genuine social faux pas? What do you think?
It's tricky, right? Because humor is so subjective and cultural. What might be hilarious in one context could be totally off-putting in another.
Yeah, and to make things even more complicated, the writer claims that the French phrase they used was a reference to a popular song. They seem to think that this somehow makes it okay. Like everyone should know the song and get the joke. Does that hold any water?
Hmm. I mean, even if we assume everyone knows the song, which is a big assumption, does that automatically make it appropriate for any situation? Context is everything, right? A phrase that might be lighthearted in a song could take on a whole different meaning in a real-life interaction, especially if it has, suggestive undertones.
Right. And it sounds like the newcomer in this case was French. So using a potentially suggestive phrase from their language could definitely come across as, well, insensitive to say the least.
Absolutely. It's like you're not just missing the mark with the joke, you're also kind of stepping on cultural toes, if that makes sense.
It totally does. But, I got to play devil's advocate here for a sec.
Mm-hmm.
The writer insists that their intentions were good. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
trying to offend anyone. They
Yep.
just wanted to break the ice. So how do we reconcile that good intention with the negative impact it seems to have had?
It's a classic case of impact versus intent, right? Good intentions are important, but they don't erase the effect of our actions. And in this case, even if the joke was intended to be harmless, it made the other person uncomfortable. And those feelings are valid. We can't just dismiss them because the intent was supposedly good.
So what's the takeaway here? Are we saying that all jokes are off limits when you're in a diverse group?
Not at all. I think the key here is mindfulness, being aware of the cultural background of the people you're with, and maybe erring on the side of caution if you're not sure how a joke might land. It's like that old saying, think before you speak, but in this case, it's more like think before you joke.
Kinks before you joke. I
I,
like that.
yeah.
So let's say you're this newcomer. You're the French person in this situation. How do you think you'd react?
Well, I think I'd feel pretty awkward like, wait, is this person seriously using this phrase with me? It would be confusing for sure, and honestly, probably a little bit uncomfortable too, like I'm being stereotyped or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. So even though the writer might feel like they didn't do anything wrong in this situation, do you think an apology is still in order?
I think an apology could go a long way in this scenario. It shows that you're acknowledging the other person's feelings, even if you don't fully understand or agree with them. It's a way of saying, hey, I messed up. I'm sorry. Can we move on from this?
Right. It's about taking responsibility for the impact of your actions, even if it wasn't intentional. So in a nutshell, humor can be a minefield when you're dealing with different cultures. Good intentions aren't always enough, and a sincere apology can be a powerful tool for smoothing things over.
Exactly. It's all about being respectful and sensitive to the people around us.
Well said. So listeners, here's something to chew on. How can we become more aware of these cultural nuances in humor? How do we strike that balance between being ourselves and having fun while still being respectful of others? It's a tough question, but it's one worth thinking about.
Yeah.
And that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.